Good afternoon, people. Thank you for joining us today. I hope all of you can hear me clearly. If not, you can let me know in the comment box on your GoToWebinar. It would be somewhere on the right side of your screen. My name is Jan. I'm part of the Enrollment Solutions team at LeadSquared. Most people on here know what we do, but just to give a brief introduction, we are an enrollment management platform that's used by over 300 career schools and universities in United States and Canada. Our product is a single platform that takes all the pain out of managing your entire admissions funnel. You can do forecasting, daily activities, student engagement, calling, texting, everything at one place. And in today's webinar, we would be discussing the secrets of delivering campus tours that leave a real impression and create a desire to enroll. So with us leading the presentation here, we have Lex. He has been an amazing admissions trainer and consultant to career schools and colleges for this particular topic for over 3 decades now. And I'll let Lex introduce his work further. And we'll take all the questions in the end. If you please look around your screen in the same GoToWebinar box, you will spot a button that says questions. Please click on that and type everything you want to be discussed in there. I will read it out loud in the end for everyone to hear. Thank you. I'll let you take this away now, Lex. Hope you guys have a good time.
Right, excellent. Thank you so much, Jane. And I want to thank everyone at LeadSquared, Shub and Shantanu and yourself and everyone for sponsoring this webinar that will give tangible takeaways on how to create an even more wow career planning session and tour. And so let's get started and dive right in to the festivities. Now, number one, career planning session and basics. And we're specifically focused on the tour. And by the way, to give context to who I am and what I do and what gives me the right to be here to share with you is I'm the CEO and founder of The Art of Admissions, as well as an admissions expert. And we help schools throughout the world increase their enrollments. And I was an admissions rep myself. Someone asked me, well, have I ever done this actually? And absolutely, I know exactly what is involved, what you have to deal with every day because I was there. I did it as well. And so let's get started with focus today specifically on the career planning session and tour. Now, our goal when it comes to that part of the process is not just to enroll a qualified student. We're looking for graduates, and that's always my philosophy. I'm looking for graduates because people who are not qualified, who are not committed and inspired enough to start, stay, and graduate don't help anybody. Certainly doesn't help themselves, doesn't help you as well as a school to have all these drops. And it could put your financial aid, of course, in jeopardy to have too many drops. So we are always supporting people who are qualified to start, stay, and graduate and go on to successful careers in the field of their choice. Now, the main basics that are must-haves, you need a great process, and it is critical to create an amazing experience. Now, this is super important, and I want you to reflect for a minute, if you would. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, that it was the most boring, zombie-like experience of your prospective student's life, up to a scale of 10, that it was absolutely amazing. Put yourselves, you know exactly what your process is with your tour and your career planning session. Imagine you are your prospective student right now, and you've just walked up to the front door of your school, you enter, and you go through the entire process. Being completely self-honest with yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being zombie, 10 being, oh my God, this is life-changing, amazing. What would you rate yourself? Putting yourself in the eyes of your prospective student. This is super important because the whole focus of what we train on is not normal. It's absolutely amazing. World-class, best in world, a wow. Now we're gonna go over some specifics. Keep that number in mind. We're gonna go over some specifics, some takeaways that you can take away at whatever number that you gave yourself of how you can make that, turn that into a 10, all right? So you need a great process, and overall, you need to create an amazing experience. Then you also need a great interview script and QBQ training. What is QBQ training? That's training in what's called the question, beneath the question. And we'll go into more detail a little later on in our time together today. This is an overall 30,000 foot overview. Then you also need a great tour that's designed, scripted, and choreographed, not left to chance. And we'll talk more detail in a little bit. Also, what follow-up processes have you developed, whether a person enrolls at the end of their tour or if they do not enroll at the end of the tour? Do you have specific, quantifiable, replicable follow-up processes? Then also, addressing objections process. Do you have an effective process and scripts for that? So that every single objection has been practiced, that nothing new is going to come up. Because there really aren't that many in the big picture. There's probably like 10, no more than 10 main ones. And then lastly, every single thing needs to be choreographed and rehearsed and practiced. And I'm going to use Disneyland and Disney World as an analogy and a metaphor for us, because they have all of this down to a science. Now, some Lex Factor fundamentals. I work in what's called the power of word optimizations. Everything matters. The power of 1%. And make sure to write these things down. You're going to get most likely the access. I believe they'll be able to share my PowerPoint slides with you. But make sure you take notes as well on things I say over and above the slides. The power of 1%. Everything is significant. Nothing's insignificant. Everything matters. A lot of times when I first start working with a school, the VP of admissions, the owner or the director, they'll ask me to identify, Lexington, what's one big thing? Like what's the main thing that we need to do differently so that we can enroll more students? And I'll tell them that it's almost always not one single thing or two single things, but it's 100 power of 1% that are so easy to dismiss. But if you give micro attention to them and you address this 1%, this 1%, this 1%, say, for example, you just address three 1%, maybe you have a 9% increase in contact rate. Maybe you have an 11% increase in appointment setting rate. Maybe you have a 13% increase in show rate, just addressing these power 1%. So another takeaway, I want you to keep this in mind and reflect and utilize this going forward, is throughout your week, be a 1% detective. Discover, identify how many elements. It's like, you know what, that could be better. It may not seem like a big deal, but you identify there's something that could be better, and then figure out what can make it better and do it. That will help you profoundly. Now, here's some no's in the power word optimizations. Words matter, phrases matter. And what I did in the process that I train all of our clients in is I took the admissions process, and I have been in admissions, as I said, for many, many years. And I then blew up that process, the process that almost all schools use by default. They've been handed down through years and years. I blew up the process and put it together from scratch. I got rid of all the legacy pieces, the words and phrases that have been handed down, people just say from generation to generation, and I took out all the ones that aren't effective. And I kept the ones that were effective and then added numerous other elements that are going to be even more effective with inspiring people to take action on their dreams. So here's some no's in the mix. I suggest never call a prospect or a person a prospect. That's an old salesy term. A prospect is a mark, someone that we're looking to do something to. We don't mark people, we don't push people, we don't manipulate people, we serve people. We're not looking to do something to a person, we're looking to help and serve them. And so instead of calling a person a prospect, I call people explorers. They're people who are exploring their possibilities. And when you call someone a prospect, even if it's internally with your colleagues or even in your mind, it changes the dynamic and the perception of who they are. Okay, I got to get them to do something. I got to get them in for an appointment, get them to show, get them to enroll, get them to start. People hate to be sold to. They love to make decisions and move forward. They love to buy. They hate to be sold to and pushed. So we get rid of the word prospect and instead substitute that with explorer. They're your explorer. You're their trail guide. And that will change how you perceive them and how they perceive you. Also, please, please, for the love of God, get rid of the word how are you, or the phrase how are you, whether it's on the phone or in a tour. It is white noise. Almost everyone says it. And when I train people to make sure you remove that from your vocabulary. Some people say, oh, but Lex, you know, they're going to be upset, or they'll think I don't care about them. I said, no, that won't be the case. When you ask a person, how are you? It's number one, you want to create a wow experience, and the power of 1%. Everything matters. How are you is white noise. It's what everyone says. It also puts a wall in between you and your explorer. When you ask, how are you? You sound like a telemarketer, a typical salesperson. When I instead greet them with, you know, welcome, great to see you, great to connect with you, great to meet you, way better. Because people aren't going to tell you, how are you, when you ask, how are you? Well, my dog died, and my camel ran off with my iguana, and my wife ran off with my best friend, and I sure do miss him, whatever it may be. Get rid of how are you, because they're not going to tell you, and it just puts a wall between you and your explorer. And one of the things that you always want to keep in mind, and this is where the power of word optimizations comes in. Every word matters. And you're either selecting and using words that create more connection between you and your explorer, or you're using words that either build walls or move you further away from connection. Excuse me. Now, another very important word optimization, don't say the phrase, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for attending this appointment. Now, why wouldn't you say thank you? Because the bottom line is this. And some people say, like, that's crazy, man. I don't want to seem ungrateful. Well, here's why. And there's a reason for everything that I'm going to ask you to do. When you say to a person, thank you for coming in, you're making the experience about you. You want your explorer to feel like a VIP, most important person in the world. In fact, ideally the only person in the world. And when you say thank you, you're saying, thank you so much for coming in. We need more students. We need more tuitions. I need to achieve my enrollment goals. Thank you for coming in. Even though you're not saying that this second part of all that, there's part of that in there, part of that energetic in there. So we don't say thank you. Welcome. Great to see you. Now, moving on, verbal graffiti. The biggest difference between a professional speaker and a non-professional speaker is a professional speaker does not use verbal graffiti. This is huge. This is way more than 1%. Now, what does verbal graffiti mean? The most common examples are, hi, I'm Lexington, and I'm glad to share some perspectives on admissions today. What does that do? It immediately puts me into a lower status, or you perceive me to be lower status, that you would perceive that I'm not as confident and that I'm not as much of an authority in my field, simply by adding what is called verbal graffiti. It adds no beauty, no help, no weight, no authority to your communication. And if you are using that, and almost everyone does, and when I first trained people, they're using that all over the place, and they were simply unaware that they were using it. So the key is, number one, be aware that you're using it, and number two, once you're aware, pretty soon you catch yourself when you say and pretty soon you won't use it anymore. And I highly recommend that you print up a sign, like a no smoking sign, red circle with a slash through it, a red slash. In the middle of that, it would say okay. Paste it on your computer. That is a really helpful tool to help move you past verbal graffiti. Because in fact, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking professionals. Every human being who speaks for a living with the public, you're a speaking professional. Yet most people don't get training in these power of 1% like verbal graffiti. And you will sound even more confident when you move past the ahs, okay. And there's another reason, by the way, why people use verbal graffiti. Sometimes it's because they don't know what to say. They haven't practiced methodically. What's the script? What are they going to say that's going to be most effective when a person comes to greet them or to see them for their personal tour and career planning session? And so practice and scripting everything out will help you as well. Another no-no in the Lex factor of word optimization is I never ever call it a close, because a close is the end. It's over. And the most uncomfortable part of any sales experience, and this is educational sales, of any sales experience, whether it's buying a car, a house, an education, the most uncomfortable part for both the buyer and the seller is the close. Okay, this is it. This is coming. I gotta do this right. I gotta say it perfectly, otherwise they won't enroll. You don't have to look at it that way at all. I've changed this to it's a bridge, because we're not closing anything. Everything's a bridge from one thing to another. And I'm going to actually give you the specific phrase that I use and that I train all admissions reps, called the bridge, later on in our time together. And lastly, in the no-nos, before we go to the yeses, are conversational tonality. Do not use conversational tonality when you're talking to people. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, I'm going to tell you about our school here and how we're going to help to get you from where you are to where you want to go and so forth. Conversational tonality does not move people to action. It does not move their hearts and get their hearts racing and get the endorphins and the dopamine coursing through their veins. Yet most people, just by default, they speak in conversational tonality. And if I did that during this presentation, there would be no one except maybe Jane and Andrew and Kevin on here in a few minutes. So it's the same with what we do with our tours, with our career planning sessions. And we do full training at the Art of Admissions in how to develop an exceptional tonality called the art of tonality. So these are the no's. So let's move right into the yeses. So the power of word optimizations. Yeses, instead of how are you, welcome, it's great to meet you. Now, some of these things may seem so fundamental and simple, which I'm about to go over, but they are not. They are hardly ever utilized to the full potential. Smile, authentic smile. When you're seeing people, when you're meeting with them, getting into that heart space, that soul space where you're really enthusiastically excited about helping them. Your face and your eyes and everything is smiling, and your body is smiling. People feel that, because how we move people to take action on their dreams is not through information. Information doesn't inspire people. It's inspiration. It's positive energy. And as the movie and the Broadway show, they both probably have the same song in it, which is called "You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile." So when you come to work, say tomorrow, are you fully dressed? Do you have a smile on your face? And are you connected with that authentically every time you're seeing someone, when you meet with them in person, as well as when you talk with them on the phone? And practice that. Get a mirror. Practice and role play all of this so you get amazing at it. Because one of the things that once in a while I'll hear from people I start training with is they'll say, "Oh, Lexington, I already do that." However, here's the $1 million, the $1 billion question. Don't say to yourself, "I already do that." Instead, ask yourself, how well do I do that? Write that down. How well do I do that? And then, because you can always get better, all of us can, when it comes to the smiling. Also, eye contact. How good is your eye contact? How strong and confident is it? Practice and role play with your colleagues, your director of admissions, in front of a mirror. This all creates more of a wow experience, more connecting experience. We use a bridge, as I shared, instead of a close. We use inspirational tonality, not conversational tonality. Huge difference. One of the fundamental elements that creates more success with admissions and in the tour, that inspires more people to move forward, is if you create emotion, more positive emotion. If a person feels up-leveled and uplifted emotionally from where they were from the beginning of their experience with you to the end, way more will move forward. People who are just like, "Yeah, that was okay," they're not going to move forward nearly as often. Because the bottom line is, when value exceeds cost, a sale is made in everything. And people do not make decisions based on intellect, based on information. Most people make decisions based on emotion and justify with intellect. There was a study that came out recently from Harvard, and a Harvard professor had done this deep research and found that 95% of people's decisions in any kind of sales, any kind of buying decisions, was 95% subconscious. The other 5% was informational. And subconscious meaning also emotional. So that's just the key. Uplift emotion, and more people will create motion in their lives and move forward and apply, enroll, start, stay, and graduate at your school. Now, what's the secret to a successful career planning session and tour? Not simply a great close, not simply a great response to so-called overcome objections. It's every single thing your explorer experiences from their first phone contact that you make with them, from the first syllable that you utter out of your mouth on the phone to the time they leave their interview. All of that goes into so-called great close. A few years ago, there was an owner of a personal training school who contacted me, and he said, Lexington, I heard about you. I'd like to hire you. However, I've got 27 schools throughout the country, and I want to fly all of my admissions people to Philadelphia, which is our headquarters, and all I want you to do is give them a great close. You know, we're doing great, but well, we're not enrolling enough people, and I know it's only because we need a better close. Just give us the words, give us the phrase. And I said, I'm not going to do that. If that's all you want, that's not going to help you, because it's not just the so-called close near the end of the tour experience. It's every single thing beforehand that matters. The power of 1%. That's why everything. How does your campus look? How does it smell? Does everyone greet your prospective students, your explorers, friendly, animated? That all matters. And Disneyland is an amazing example of this. They proclaim themselves to be the happiest place on earth. And I've been there. Many of you probably have as well. It's a pretty darn happy place. That didn't happen by accident. It happens because every single thing is scripted. Every element is scripted. And people role play and practice. The Disneys, the Goofies, the Snow Whites, the Seven Dwarfs, etc. Everyone, they're practicing constantly and role playing. Nothing is left to chance. And that's what creates a wow experience consistently for the millions of visitors that come to their amazing place. And we want to create educational Disneyland in your campus, so that when people leave, they're like, oh my God, that was mind-blowing. I'm gonna wake the neighbors, wake the pets, tell my friends and family, and they gotta come check out your school as well. That's the perspective we wanna come with. Create such great enthusiasm and energy that they're gonna be so blown away that they will see the value, feel the value, move forward, and change their lives. Now, one of the things I'm asked numerous times is, this is hard, Lexington. I mean, this is going to take a lot of work. We're already so busy. And I said, I hear you. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. But the difference between world-class and regular, mundane, mediocre, is this attention to detail, the relentless attention to detail, so that you don't just change things for a day or a week, but you're constantly changing and up-leveling everything 1% at a time. And that's going to create even more of a wow experience at your school. Now, here's some critical elements of the career planning session. Your eternal question: tour first or interview first? So, Jane, can we do the survey for this? Tour first or interview first?
Yeah, sure.
And the question is going to be asked, how many of you say that you should do the tour first in the beginning? And how many of you say it should be the interview first? You know, after the person comes into your school. I'm curious to see, what say you? If you could just take 60 seconds to fill that out now, that would be most awesome. So which one do you think? Should you tour a person first, or should you interview the person first? You have 30 more seconds. Tour first or interview first? The million-dollar question. And I certainly have perspective I will share with you, but I have heard both ways. And when I first started working with a school, I've seen it both ways. All right, let us close that poll up. And survey says
45% opted for tour a person first, and 55% opted for interview the person first.
Okay, right, excellent. And the winner is, and sometimes there's more ways to get up a mountain than one single way. There's not necessarily one single way. However, with this particular perspective, I highly recommend that you do the interview first, because there's no context to giving a tour first. You don't know who they are yet. You don't know what they most value. And that I want to get to know my explorer deeply first. And I want them to start feeling comfortable just having some time one-on-one with me in my office. And then when I give them the tour, I could then focus and underline and accentuate the things that are important to them, whether it's the lab, whether it's student services, whether it's additional activities our students are doing, whatever it may be. And they're feeling way more comfortable as now this co-consultant, this coach is touring them through the school, as opposed to this stranger who I'm still kind of wary about them. They may be they're probably trying to get me to enroll. They're just kind of trying to get my money, get my checkbook, get my credit card, whatever it may be today. So I highly recommend, if you are giving your tour first, that you shift that and do the interview first, so you get to know them and so you can build the value and connection with your prospective student. And then you have a lot more authority when you're giving that tour, because they realize you're a high status person, you have their best interest at heart, you're not looking to get them to do something, you're looking to help them. So I highly recommend an interview be first. And also, what is the purpose of the C.P.S? That is also an internal question. What is the purpose of the career planning session? Is it to give information, or is it to inspire? Now, that doesn't have a single answer. It's a bit of both. However, inspiration is way more important than the information. They, of course, have to get information. I'm not going to, of course, they've got to know about your class schedules. They've got to get some credibility about why your school, is amazing, how it can help them to achieve the outcome they want. But people need way less information to make a decision than most admissions representatives think, and way more inspiration to move forward than most of us initially think. So that's critical, that inspiration be the foundation of your experience with your Explorer, and information, of course, is part of it, but the foundation is inspiration. Then, again, to underline, people make decisions based on emotion, not information. I've worked with so many admissions representatives initially who they just give information dumps after information dump and overwhelm your explorers with information. There was a school I used to work with a few years ago in San Francisco, and I asked the admissions representative, or one of the admissions representatives, tell me about your tour, and how long is it? Oh, Lexington, it's 3 hours. I said, oh my God, how could it possibly be 3 hours long? They need to know everything about our school to make a decision. And I said, well, would you be open to shifting that? Oh, no. And I just got there that day, and an Explorer just came that moment. They just came in. I just got there that day. They just came in. So I was in the next room, and I was able to hear the entire career planning session and tour. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 hours later, it finally finished. It was nuts. After 10 minutes, by the way, the person who the admission representative was talking with, the Explorer, she was ready to enroll. She didn't even want any more information. She wanted to enroll. But the admissions rep went on 2 hours and 50 minutes more. That's 2 hours and 50 minutes more. And the Explorer tolerated her. Thank God she didn't run screaming. She got lucky on that. But she did not need all the information. But the admissions rep could have swore that was the case. And I work with her to help her to realize it's all about inspiration. And it takes a lot less time than 3 hours to create strong information, to give some fundamental information. All right. And now the 4 fundamental elements an Explorer needs. This is critical too of a career planning session. They need to know where they are in their life. They need to know where they're going. They need to know how to get there. And they need to have their objections addressed. Their fears have to be addressed. So I'll say that one more time. Make sure you're writing this down. They need to know where they are. They need to know where they want to go. They need to know how to get there. And they need their fears, their objections, they need to have them addressed. And if you cover those 4 elements with great inspiration and connection, many more people will end up starting, staying, and graduating in your school. And I know I'm talking with people, you're already good. Each of you, you're already doing a really good job. The thing is, I want to help you to get to that higher and higher level. And there's always room for us to grow. Unless we're at a 10, we still have room to grow. So all these elements I'm sharing with you can absolutely help if you utilize them and integrate them into your daily admissions experience. Now, here's an overview of the career planning session. To ensure a great experience and create immense value for your Explorer, Your tour must be scripted. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to, well, my admissions reps kind of have an idea what to say. Script it. Make sure the interview is scripted to lead them down the path to basically disrupting a person out of their comfort zone so they take action on their dreams. Because the bottom line, if someone were to ask you, what do you do for a living? I wouldn't just say an admissions representative. I would say, you know what? I'm a professional disruptor. When I told someone that, they said, Lexington, that's crazy. What do you mean you're a professional disruptor in admissions? Do you like fly around the country and you go to big metropolitan cities and you start riots and throw Molotov cocktails through storefront windows and set cars on fire? No. I'm not that kind of disruptor. I'm a professional disruptor where I inspire people out of their comfort zones so they take action on their dreams. I help people to disrupt themselves out of their comfort zone so they take action on their dreams. And so everything we do in our C.P.S. session and tour, career planning session and tour, has to help support people's disruption out of the biggest trance of all, because most people are in trances, called the trance of the comfort zone. And we disrupt them out of that. And it ain't easy, to put it bluntly. But with everything I'm sharing with you, you can inspire even more people out of their comfort zone so they take action on their dream. Now, here's overall, out of 100% their experience. 5% of the time, so we'll say an average of an hour, 5% of the time should be greet, set the agenda and intention. Number 2, discover, connect, and qualify your explorer. That should be about 45% of your time. That's the majority out of everything, by the way. Determine their current situation, their goals, and their motivation, and discover their core motivation, their core why. What inspires you to want to become a medical assistant? I love helping people. That's a surface why. That's always a starting point. But the QBQs, which we'll talk about a little later, question means the question. That's where you're going to discover the core why. Because surface whys don't move people to take action. That's just intellectual whys. Core whys are emotional whys. They inspire people to take action. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, your next part, you're going to present about your school, the information. Certainly is there. It's an important part. It's 40%, a little less than the inspiration part. 40%, still important, of course. Then you're going to propose 5%. Show them what the investment in their future will cost, because when value exceeds cost, a sale is made. Please write that down. When value exceeds cost, when perceived value of their education exceeds the cost of your tuition, people will move forward. And the number one reason people don't move forward is because they don't perceive enough value in the outcome of their education. Most people don't want to go to school. They'd love not to go to school and become a ... whatever that may be, but they got to go to school to get the skills they need to become that, which they are passionate about becoming. Show them how the outcome exceeds the cost of time and money, and more people will move forward. And lastly, 5% of the time is the bridge and addressing objections. That is the overview. Now, before the arrival, before your explorer arrives, we need to set the stage for an emotional, life-changing experience. And yes, I take it that seriously, and I ask you to as well. As amazing as you do right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, is it a 10,000? And that's the wow experience, not a 10, not an 11, a 10,000. And what can you do to make it that 10,000, where people's minds and hearts and emotions are absolutely blown away? So before the career planning session, you sow the soil of this through your initial phone call. That phone call should never be normal, informational, matter of fact. That should be inspirational. So they already know that when they meet with you in person, this is not going to be normal. This is not going to be boring. And the more exciting and excited people feel about exploring their possibilities when they come to see you, the higher your show rate is. Emotion. They're going to want more of that emotion. If you uplift their emotion on the phone, they're going to want more of that emotion in person. And they're going to assume when they get it, they're going to experience that same emotion, except you can even give more to them because now you're in person and you have a lot more time than 5 or 10 minutes on a phone call. You want to create an amazing first impression. If you don't have parking specifically for visitors, get parking for visitors with a sign for visitor parking. You can go one step past that. When you have people coming in to see you, customize that sign. You can get plexiglass from Staples, someplace like that, and you can, print something up that will go underneath that. Beautiful sign that's, with their name, the person's first name, last name, their own parking sign, their own parking place. That's a wow. Almost no schools do that. It costs you almost nothing to do that. Then once they come into your school, right before they come into your school, they see the front door of your school. I suggest create a welcome sign. Name of your school, welcomes Sally Williams. Beautifully designed sign, has some beautiful graphics, a motivational quote at the bottom. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step, Martin Luther King. Just for one example. Put this sign, create this sign on beautiful paper, not copy paper. That's a throwaway, has no value. Create it on thicker, like a resume, thicker textured paper that has texture, not just smooth. Many people will want to take this sign home with them. That's called a forget-me-not. Whether they enroll or not, they're going to put that up on the refrigerator. And people love that type of experience. It's personalized. In this highly digital age that we live in, so little is personalized anymore. And people love that. In fact, there's a school that I work with, and I had asked the admissions reps to create the signs, the welcome signs, and they did. And I went to the school initially for 3 days. 2 weeks later, I came back, and there was a person who was just about to show up for an appointment. And I asked, where's the welcome sign? And the person said, the admissions rep said, we ran out of paper. Why didn't you buy some new paper? Oh, I don't know, we were too busy. Don't ever let the we're too busy thing ever prevent you from doing any of these things. I said, well, can you get some as soon as the tour is over? Absolutely. In the meantime, they found one last piece of paper somewhere, the higher quality paper. They immediately printed it out, put it on the door. And the person showed up 5 seconds later. As soon as she shows up, she looks at the door, looks at her personalized sign welcoming her. She just stops there. She starts taking pictures of it. She walks into the lobby, and she immediately starts making a big deal, like, oh my God, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. Thank you. I'm smiling in the lobby, seated on the side, knowingly. And however, that's not the end of it. Then in the career planning session, at one point, one of the questions was asked, which I have the admissions rep ask, what are you looking for in the school? And the explorer said, I'm looking for a school that cares about me, that doesn't just look at me as tuition, as a warm body in a seat. I want a school that cares about me and cares to help me to become a ... It was actually a massage therapy school, to become a massage therapist. And I know that because of that sign that you had for me, that welcome sign. And I smiled twice. And it makes a difference. Power of 1%. She enrolled, started, and graduated. And then director of first impressions is your front desk person. Are they totally trained and enthusiastic to meet your prospective students, your explorers? Welcome, big smile. If there aren't a lot of people coming in at that particular time, welcome them by name. If you see someone you don't recognize and it's not an active time, no. Hi, Letitia, welcome. People will be blown away. But if they don't know the name, at least when the director of first impressions, the front desk, which is who they are, they need to be enthusiastic and energetic, welcoming them. And then lastly, before the arrival, take care of the 5 senses. How does your place look? That massage school I just talked about, as soon as I went in there, there was a hole in the wall. As soon as I walked through the front door. I asked, how long has it been there? I've been there about a year. How come I wasn't fixed? Oh, I don't know. Haven't gotten around to it. Too busy. That's the first thing the explorer sees. See how many holes in the wall you have. And you may not have blatant holes. Maybe you have a stain in the carpet, a tear in the wallpaper. They all matter. Also, how does your school smell? What are the scents? There's scents, by the way, that help inspire people to move forward and take an action. Peppermint, by the way, is not one of them. That's a cold scent. That doesn't help people to make decisions to move forward. Cinnamon and lavender are. Orange is also a great scent, wakes people up. Now, once you as the admissions rep meet with them, the front desk has greeted them, they bring them to your office, you meet with your explorer, make sure to use a warm, enthusiastic, and professional greeting. Everything you say, your smile, your eye contact, the tonality of your voice will determine for your explorer, are you a person of high status or are you a person of low status? And if you look at your school and your admissions reps, the people who are most successful are generally people you would perceive to be high status people, authoritative, confident, not shy, not kind of, they'll let the explorer lead things. They're strong, they're a leader. The art of tonality, we do a lot of deep training in tonality, not just what's said, but how do you say it is critical to becoming more and more effective. Because each of us, we're speaking professionals, and we actually play an instrument. Our instrument is our voice. And no different than an actor, actress, or singer, we should be developing the art of tonality as well, so that we not only are saying optimal words that inspire someone out of their heads into their emotions, but we're also saying these words in a way that people listen to what we have to say. People are excited to hear what we have to say. People believe that what we say is true, and more people will end up moving forward on their dreams when you combine all these elements through regular training of them. And then lastly, the agenda. What can they expect will occur during their career planning session and tour? They'll be so much more comfortable. They don't know what's going to go on. Now, they know the beginning, middle, and the end. So you want to make sure you have a scripted agenda. You're going to experience this, and this. How's that sound? Awesome. Now you discover your explorer. There's something called a discovery questionnaire, which I've created, which has some questions that are similar to the phone script, some that are not. And this is the part that should be 45% of their experience. This is where you then help the person to realize that the school is a must-have. They go into school and change their lives as a must-have, not a nice-to-have. You discover their core why by asking them great questions, meet the questions. I'm going to give you a specific example here. Make sure to write this template down. Now, there's many more ways to do this than just this one, but this is a great template. When you ask a person a question, for example, what inspires you to consider becoming a cosmetologist? Two-word optimizations. I don't say what interests you in becoming a cosmetologist. Interest is a thinking word. That's a legacy term I threw out. I changed it with inspires. Inspires is a feeling word. What inspires you to become a cosmetologist? They haven't made it up their mind necessarily. So I changed that from what inspires them to become a cosmetologist to what inspires them to consider becoming a cosmetologist. Because when I say what inspires you or what interests you in becoming a cosmetologist, they're going to feel pushed sometimes. Hey, back off, Sparky. I'm just checking things out. I don't even know if I'm going to afford it yet. But when we change to what inspires you to consider becoming a cosmetologist, the person feels much more open to share that with you. They don't know what's different. They just know they're happy to share. And now people give you a surface answer initially. Here's a QBQ example, question meet the question example. I'm curious, Sally, what inspires you to consider becoming a cosmetologist? Oh, I love making people feel beautiful. That's great. Now that's the surface answer. Most admission representatives move on. It's like skipping pebbles on a pond. You want to go deeper to the core. You celebrate them. That's awesome. Now QBQ. I'm curious, when is the first time you realize you like helping someone? When? They're going to have to think back on that. They're going to emotion now. Surface is about intellect. QBQ, questions and answers, about emotion. Oh, I was only about 8 years old when I helped someone. Wow, that's young. What? Next question. What happened when you were only 8 years old where you ended up helping someone feel beautiful? Oh, you know, my sister was going to go to the prom, my older sister, and whatever it may be. And that's how you go deeper and deeper and uncover and discover the core whys beneath that surface. And when you discover the core whys, your explorer is connecting and discovering their core whys of what truly inspires them to consider this career that they're considering. So we use a discovery questionnaire, and that's the scripted part about discovering the explorer. And we use open-ended questions, which are extremely valuable. And we have such limited time today, I'm going to have to kind of move through what we've got here a little bit quicker. But these slides will be available after the broadcast here, after the webinar. Now, when it comes to the QBQs, this is important. Here's your starter QBQs. Person gives you that initial answer. Ask a who, what, when, where, how, or why. Those are your starter questions. I'm curious, what inspired you to this? When was the first time? How did that make you feel? Tell me more about that. How do you feel about that? These are important. And that picture there is a picture, of course, of an iceberg. And most admissions reps, and I used to do this myself, I only went with the surface. What inspires you to consider becoming a medical assistant? I like helping people. Oh, great. What's your highest level of education? I'd move on. Don't move on. We want to go down to the Mariana Trench, into the depths of emotion, because in the depths of the ocean of emotion is when people will create action, take motion in their lives, and enroll, start, stay, and graduate at your school. Then you have the presentations, the basics of the presentation. This is where you build immense value and inspire them to take action, not just to think about it, because information causes people to think more. Inspiration causes them to take action, inspires them to take action. So you want to show how your features benefit your explorer. Most admissions representatives initially focus on the features. We have small class sizes, great teachers, or financial aid for those who qualify, etc. Those are features. What's in it for them? WIFM, W-I-F-M. That's the only radio station they care about, W-I-F-M. What's in it for me? You got to turn those features into benefits. And if you haven't done this, I suggest as an exercise this week, list all of your features, every feature you can possibly come up with, and then list how those features benefit your explorer. And then when you're talking with them during your C.P.S, talk about the benefits. That because we have small class sizes, that we give you the personalized attention that you need to learn the material, and we'll understand your learning style to help you so you become an exceptional ... whatever that may be. Now, big three concerns most explorers have. Number one, can I do it? Number two, can I afford it? Number three, how will it benefit me? And those questions are all answered in an effective career planning session and tour. And also use multiple trial closes. I do use the word here just so you understand what I mean. Trial closes throughout the tour, meaning, can you see the small class sizes are going to help you? Yes, yes. And you want their head nodding up and down. And you see how this particular lab and what we do here can help you learn the material so you can be an exceptional so-and-so after you graduate. Yes, and their head should be nodding up and down, and asking them these trial closes, trial bridges multiple times throughout their experience. And you want them nodding their head up and down so much that they have whiplash and are happy to go to the chiropractor as soon as they are complete with your tour, because they have nodded up and down yes so many times. Because the more times they say yes throughout their experience with you, the higher the likelihood they will say yes once it gets to the bridge, and that they'll move on. Now, the presentation to the tour. This has got to be scripted as well. It should not be ad hoc, like, oh, just show them around the building. That's how I was taught first in my first admissions job that I had. Just show them around the building. And the building didn't even look good. The only thing missing from the building of my first school that I worked in as an admissions rep was a chalk outline of a dead body. Literally, it was a nasty looking place. I didn't stay there very long. But for yours, I know yours doesn't look like that. You want to create the Disneyland tour and make sure everything's scripted. Where do you go when? What do you say when? Also, create a place for selfie spots. This is golden. Create a special place for selfie spots. There should be a background that has your school's logo, beautifully decorated, and it's the kind of place that a person will be proud and excited to take a selfie. And also, I recommend getting one of those mats too. And I'm actually kind of bending at my knees right now as I'm saying this. One of those spongy mats, you can get them online, and they have feet, and also get these feet footprints that you can put on there. You can order those online as well. Part of the selfie spot. They line up their feet, take a selfie. And one last piece with the selfie spot, dress them up as if, whatever they may be considering, if there's any kind of clothes or supplies, bring them out, put them in the clothes, whatever it may be. That not only helps them get even more excited, but that's going to create more personally developed leads for you as they put them on Instagram and Facebook and so forth. Also, do you have an instructor wall during the tour? Your wall of fame of instructors. Make sure to take them to career services, your lab, student services, and make sure that everyone has rehearsed and knows their part. We're all performers on stage when we're in admissions, just like Disney World, just like on Broadway. Don't just bring someone to student services and, hi, this is Sally Jones, student services, hello, and they move on. What do they say? How do they engage? What's their eye contact, smiling, and so forth? You take them to financial aid, what is said? class in session. How do you present the class in session? How long do you stay? Verify they see and feel the value. That's so important. Don't wait to the end to find out if they're engaged in considering this. Verify throughout. Ask them, can you see yourself here? How's that feel for you? Super important. And the program, focus on how an education at your school will give them the outcome they desire. This is so important. People, for the most part, are not inspired to go to school. They are inspired to get the outcome that education will give them. That is the key. When value exceeds cost, the sale is made. You cannot possibly build enough value for most people to change their lives talking about how amazing your school is. It's not how amazing we are as a school, it's how amazing we make you, the skills we give you, so you can go on to a successful career and so. That's the focus. And your voice needs to be enthusiastic and inspirational. Doesn't that mean you're yelling the whole time by any means. You can talk quieter sometimes, louder other times, slower sometimes, faster sometimes. That's all the art of tonality and the art of learning how to utilize your instrument and your voice effectively. But always be enthusiastic. And the exact words that will inspire more people to apply are helpful as well, which I call the bridge. All right, so now, before the bridge though, we have the proposal. Show them the investment in their future. The scariest part for people is, okay, I'm all excited now. What's it gonna cost me? And I probably can't afford it. Most people are assuming they can't afford it, at least the majority. And the key is to understand that. This is where there's a lot of fear coming in. But when value exceeds cost, the sale is made. So up until this point, you want to build, if your school program costs $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $40,000, you want to build $100,000 of value, $500,000 of value, their perceived value, so that when they get to this, it doesn't seem so crazy. And the fact is, most schools on here offer financial aid to those who qualify. So until they meet with financial aid, they don't really know if they can afford it yet. But the more they feel that value of the outcome of your education, even if the financial numbers don't come out as good as they hope for, if there's a balance of some type, people will move heaven and earth when value exceeds cost. They'll find a way. They'll borrow money from friends. They'll get a loan, whatever they need to do. Rob a bank, well, I don't recommend that. But they'll do whatever they need to do to achieve that outcome if they get the value exceeds cost. Because people who are interested in an outcome will do what is convenient. Please write this down. I recommend this. When people are interested in an outcome, they will do what is convenient. When they are committed to an outcome, they will do whatever is necessary to achieve that outcome. And if we help people to realize that value exceeds cost and help them to commit to their outcome, they'll move heaven and earth. They'll create miracles where it seemed like there was no way they would be able to get funding for this, and somehow they found a way because they are that committed. I also asked them, what do you think this investment in your education is going to be worth? Not just now, not just in a year from now, but 5 to 10 years from now. And also, can you see yourself being successful with this opportunity? Yes, yes, yes. Heads going up and down. All right, now here's the bridge. This is not a close, it's a bridge from their experience to the next step. I suggest you memorize this, use it verbatim. I've tested this for over 13 years now. I share the bridge, not a close like, hey, you want to enroll or what? On the way back from the tour, before I get to my office, before they are in 4 enclosed walls, ask you what you've experienced today, Sally. Can you see yourself as a student here? It's just a question. Now, I say there, the Zen of the Bridge. What does that mean? There's a concept with Zen. You're unattached to the outcome. You're detached to any outcome. You're not saying that trying to get them to enroll or apply, because the more they feel you want them to say yes, the more people will say no. Be completely unattached to what the answer will be. If you did a great job up until this point, almost everyone's going to say yes. And they'll feel that you have no attachment to the outcome, and they'll feel that you have their best interest at heart, which of course you do. So I just ask it, very matter of fact, very laid back. After what you've experienced today, Sally, can you see yourself as a student here? Oh, absolutely. Excellent. What I suggest as the next step for you is to simply fill out the application and we'll get you started. How's that sound? Sounds awesome. Great. An X amount of people will say yes. Boom. You're laid back. They're not feeling any pressure. Closes create pressure. Bridges are completely open. Now, if they say no, now, I got to talk to my husband or, father, mother, boyfriend. I totally understand. Agree with them. Do not attempt to overcome their objection. I totally understand. I'm curious, Sally, what are some questions your husband's going to ask you? That's a way to work with that. And we're running out of time here. So the last elements we have here are listen and agree. Do not attempt to overcome an objection. Get that out of your vocabulary. We do not overcome objections. We address objections. Agree with them. I understand. It's just too much money. I understand. I hear you. We're taught from kindergarten, when someone gives us a question, we got to give them an answer. We're not going to try to overcome it by giving them an answer. We're going to ask them another question. I can't afford it. I understand. Not question the answer. I understand. If I can show you how you would be able to afford it, would you consider moving forward so you could become a ... Yeah, sure. And then you can go deeper into that. Solve things for them. Feel, felt, found method. I understand how you feel. Many students have felt the same way. And however, they found after they met with our financial aid director, ... All right. And then challenge them to move forward. You know what? 1 year from now, it's going to come around, Sally, whether you go to school or not. Is that true? Absolutely. Well, if you did go to school, how could your life be different? Let them share their vision. And if you didn't go to school, how would your life be? Most likely, probably the same. How would that feel, Sally, if it's the same as it is now in 1 year? Oh, not good at all. How would it feel if you were to move forward? Et cetera, et cetera. All right, I'm giving you like very quick versions here. And this is the training that we do with schools. We go deep into this. And then here, lastly, last words, keys not to be ignored. You always need a next action step and a by when. If a person does enroll, you also need a next action step and by when if they do not enroll. Meaning if they do enroll at your school or apply, whichever nomenclature you use, what is your next action step and by when? What is your explorers or now your applicants' next action step and by when? If it's financial aid, create that appointment right then and there. Can they come tomorrow? That's next action step and by when. If you have to call them, what's your next action step? When do I need to call them? And what is the content of the call going to be about? You always need a next action step and by when. And one other element, always include it in the meantime. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow, Sally, after you've had a chance to talk with your husband. Say this is a person who didn't enroll. And in the meantime, I'm going to send an article, a link to a great article about ... I think you and your husband, Jerry, will enjoy. And by the way, what time will be good to call you tomorrow? 9 o'clock? Perfect. In the meantime, always include a link to an added value video or article. It turns you into even more of a co-consultant in their process because you're keeping them on fire. You're giving them something of value to them. And then the last few things we have, the importance of referrals. Personal developed leads. Ask this question before someone leaves. By the way, who do you know who also may be considering becoming a ... Or who do you know who also may be considering a career change? Not do you know anyone? Don't ask a yes or no question. Write this down exactly. Who do you know who also may be considering becoming a ... You ask that to every single person, you're going to find 10, 20% are going to give you referrals. And people who give referrals, the referrals and the person usually starts at a higher rate than single people. Effective perspectives to help people complete their enrollment process quickly. And you want to make sure they understand what is entailed from now until they're completely enrolled and they start. And then lastly, the communication agreement. This is important because how many people have you talked with who've either toured and not enrolled, or even toured and toured and applied and disappear on you? They ghost you. I always recommend a communication agreement. Now, Sally, going forward, say this is someone who enrolled, say who applied. Going forward, I am going to stay in very close contact with you. And I promise, if you have any questions along the way, I promise to get back to you as soon as possible, same day as much as humanly possible, and never more than by the next day. How does that sound? They'll say yes. Awesome. And Sally, I ask the same of you. If there's any questions I have or any that our financial aid director has, I ask you as well to get back to them as soon as possible, same day, as much as possible, and never more than the next day, never past the next day. Does that sound fair? They'll say yes. And that helps. And there's a lot more layers to this. We can't possibly go over everything in a 1 hour webinar. And that concludes our broadcast day. And Jane, did you want to open up to some last minute questions before we go?
Yeah, sure, Lex. Thank you so much, Lex. I mean, that was really great advice. I have a couple of questions lined up here, and I would request everyone to take a look on the right side of their GoToWebinar panel where they can type their questions regarding campus tours and interviews. And so, Lex, I'm telling you the first question here. It comes from Sharon, and she wants to know, once the campus tours and interviews are done, how to keep the student engaged apart from emails and calls that you just now told.
All right, that's an excellent question, Sharon. And a couple things is you want to do a call every week. There's someone, I think they may be on this call, one of my clients, Barbara, amazing admissions person. She calls every single week, lets them know she will be calling them every Friday. You connect, always offer them something of value on that. And that's just part of the experience. Also, the emails are still important as well, because I know you asked, what else other than emails, but what is in those emails? Texts as well. What's in those texts? I highly recommend sending short video text messages. If your admissions representatives have smartphones, send your applicants, your enrollees, a short video text message that you always include a link to a great article or video about. Let them know you're going to do this so they know what to expect. That keeps them on fire. It keeps them inspired. Hardly anyone uses video texting. If you'd like to find out more how to utilize that effectively, my number's there. Call or text me, Sharon. Happy to share that with you. And I was the first person that I'm aware of to introduce video texting when it first became available. Powerful tool. Also, depending upon how long there is between now and their class start, you can also create some events at the school that are stitch-in events. Meet your fellow classmates and have some food and so forth. That could be very helpful as well. And make sure there's always something to be gained. They learn something. They get something of value when they go to those events. That could be helpful. Thank you for the question, Sharon.
Yeah. We have another one here from Tierra, and she wants to know, how long should a campus tour take?
That is an excellent question. And on average, it should be about an hour. That doesn't include time to enroll or if they meet with financial aid. But an hour is the sweet spot. Any longer than that, you're going to start losing people. There was a study that came out recently, and goldfish, by the way, have a 9-second attention span. And I've heard different numbers, but the latest I heard, goldfish have a 9-second attention span. People were just studied in the USA, and it was determined that they now have an 8-second attention span, less than a goldfish. That's all human beings at large on average. That's sad. So with that context, we don't want the tours to go 3 hours, 2 hours, even an hour and a half. The whole experience should be about an hour. It needs to keep moving too, by the way. It should not be slow. It should be entertaining, effective, informative. Understand, be aware what your pace is in your tour. You're a performer on stage, not someone like Bueller. Bueller, time to dissect the earthworms in the Sahara Desert, Bueller. So we got to keep it moving. So about an hour is the sweet spot.
Okay, so we have lots and lots of questions coming up. I'll wrap with 2 questions maybe, and then probably we'll answer those questions over the email. Would that be fine for you, Lex?
Yes, it would be. In fact, what I'll do with those questions, I will send you a video email. Whoever has questions, and I also train clients, train mission representatives how to use video email messaging to more effectively connect with your leads and your enrollees. So, all right, okay, excellent.
So before we end this, I just have one more questions from the asker, and we'll then wrap that up. So the question is from Roman, and he wants to know, we use mainly text message to contact many people, and they want to know right away how much dollars would it cost, and how should we answer this question through a text?
All right. So that's it. I'm getting great questions here. Believe me, they're not always as clear and good as they are. So one of the things is, a lot of admissions reps, they go down the path of, I call it the texting black hole, or the black hole of texting. And whenever someone starts to text, I always suggest a bridge to a phone call, first off. And X amount of people will be open to a phone call. So if someone texts, hey, I just want to know how much your program costs. And say, hey, that's an awesome question. I'm happy to help you with that. Would it be okay to give you a call now? Be a lot better for you than simply a quick text back and forth. An X amount of people will say yes. Without that, they're not going to offer a phone call. And so X amount, you'll be able to move them to a phone call where you then will not just say, hey, you asked about the price. I'm going to give you the price, because that is not an optimized perspective. Hi, Sally, it's so great to connect. By the way, what inspires you to consider becoming a ... Most people move on from the cost of that. If someone insists and says, hey, I just want to know the cost, I'm happy to share that with you. And then our tuition investment is ... And we offer financial options to those who qualify, which you'll find out more in detail when you come to meet with us for your personal tour and career planning session. So again, if they insist upon it, I'm going to give them one piece. And with the cost, I'll always include, we offer financial aid to those who qualify, if you offer financial aid, or if you don't, we have a number of financial options, which you'll find out more about in detail when you come to meet with us for a personal tour. By the way, I'm curious, what inspires you to consider becoming a ... So you would use that in the text if a person is not willing to hop on a phone with you. All right. What else? Any others?
Yeah, Lex, here I have, tons and tons of questions still coming in. So
This is our
what I
last
would
one.
do is, okay, okay. Again, this is with respect to the campus tour timings. Should tours be a couple of times per week or more? For example, we do 3 tours per day, Monday to Friday. They are about an hour each. So this question is from Terry.
And what, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Okay, so should tours be a couple of times per week or more? For example, we do 3 campus tours per day, Monday to Friday. They're about an hour each.
All right. I suggest having as many available as possible and not having just select times. I'm not sure what size your school is. Sometimes very small schools will sometimes use that and do like 3 tours a week or something. I recommend one-on-one tours as much as possible. And as long as you're open from 9 a.m. to, ideally you're open to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I always suggest mall hours, not the old-fashioned admissions hours, which are more like banker's hours. So I recommend not just a few times a week, but every day, available through the whole day, as well as Saturdays and Sundays. That's the latest. And most schools are still not doing Sundays. Sundays are awesome because we need to be open and available to give tours when people are available, when the explorers are available, not when it's convenient for us. So that admissions, we have to really shift our hours big time. It's super important. All right.
Thank you.
So
yeah.
So thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure and an honor to connect with you. Thank you for spending some time with me. And I highly encourage you to, let's say, the top 3 takeaways and start using those today. Start practicing and role playing everything that you're going to be using so that your team knows exactly what to say when, with confidence, with great tonality. All right. And thank you again, Jane and LeadSquared. Thank you so much for sponsoring this.
Yeah, sure. Anytime, Dex. So that's all for the webinar today. There are still lots of questions coming in. I'll forward them to Lex and he'll give you the answers, or he'll send you emails with all the answers for those questions. And the recording of the webinar and presentation deck will be mailed to all of you first thing tomorrow. And thanks again. Have a great day, guys.
Enjoy a great day, everyone. And my email is there too. You can email me directly at lex@theartofadmissions.com. Create a great day of inspiration, and we'll see you next time.